Shelly's getting the camera ready, and I figured I'd start casting. We'll take those. Nice smallmouth. So today, Jamie, Bruce, and I are out. We're fishing on Lake of the Woods, and we're gonna show you how to catch smallmouths in the dirty water, the darker water in the center part of the lake. We're gonna be throwing crankbaits and a few other baits, and we're gonna catch lots of smallmouths just like this.
Fishing with Gussy is proudly sponsored by and uses Shimano rods and reels. Visit fish.shimano.com for more information. Crankbaiting. Tell you what, if you want to get action, these little baits are tough to beat, and Jamie, Bruce, and I are going to show you all about it today. We're fishing on Lake of the Woods, and we're going to be fishing in the dirtier water in the center part of the lake, an area that has a lot of bass and probably doesn't get a lot of attention during some of the tournaments that we have on Lake of the Woods, but there's lots of fish, and hopefully we're going to catch a bunch of them today, and hopefully some big ones. But I'll tell you what, you want action, tie on a crankbait and go start casting, and you'll catch some fish. That one's on the spinning rod. Jamie just got hung up, so he kind of came in close to shore, and I pitched out my tube jig. And the one thing that, if you're fishing in the center part of Lake of the Woods, the diet of these bass relies big time on crayfish. So any kind of, crayfish imitating bait is gonna be good. And that was just a little tube jig. There you go, another nice smallmouth. After we catch one, sometimes we'll cast these tube jigs out and, maybe just work over a little area where we catch a fish or two, and usually you can, put a couple more in the boat that way with the little bit slower presentation. But crankbaits are really good for finding fish and finding spots. So we're covering ground with the crankbaits, and then every time you get around a dock or a boulder, something you can see, a log that might have a fish on it, then that's a good time to pick up the tube and make a few casts with it. It's sort of a 1-2 punch and good way to catch a bunch of fish. When I'm working that tube, I like to kind of, on the Great Lakes and other places, it's a lot more dragging, and here I like to pop it a little bit more, make it act like a crayfish trying to swim away from the bass, get their attention a little bit. These are the best docks too, these ones that are kind of been there for a long time, aged, beat up a bit. And then the other thing too, when you're letting that tube sink,
this is where the braided line is nice, but you always want to let it sink straight down. So you gotta hit the water, and then I like to pull a little bit of line off, lay it down on the water, and so that tube sinks straight down. If you engage your reel as soon as the tube hits the water, it's gonna fall back towards you, and it's gonna, you know, hit the bottom 4 or 5 feet away from that dock. And if they're sitting right underneath it, you're basically pulling the tube away from them. And usually I like to use the yellow Power Pro for this, a little bit easier to see, because sometimes you'll actually get bites when that tube is sinking. Ooh, snag. And then you can just set the hook if you see your line jump, you know. But you fish enough of these docks and you'll catch a bunch of bass off them too. Giant bass. That's why you gotta love smallmouths though, because that's their attitude. They'll eat something that's half their size and not have any problems doing it.
Coming up, Jamie and Jeff show you how their bait matches the hatch.
The water's pretty high right now, or you'd be able to sort of see, but there's a lot of really nice boulders down this little stretch we're fishing right now, and that's you can kind of combine some boulders and a little bit of sand, a little bit of weed. That's like the perfect recipe for catching these fish. So if it's just rock or just sand, or it's, you know, too soft and weedy, then that's usually not as good. You kind of want to have a little bit of a mixture, and that's the ticket. We've got really high water this year on Lake of the Woods, so some of these people are putting extra weight on top of the dock so they're not floating up. There's a dock there, yeah. Little guy. Rock bass. If you fish enough docks, you'll catch some of those little suckers too. There's a bass, that's a better one. Jump, baby. It was up really shallow, so I'm thinking it's probably a bass, but
looking like a pretty good walleye spot.
It's kind of looking walleye-ish or pike-ish maybe, because it doesn't want to jump, but if it is a bass, it's the kind we want. Yeah, it's a nice bass. Just a nice one, not a big one. Ugh. Here, I'll show you. He just coughed up exactly what they're eating right there. See that? So I'll get this guy back, and I'm going to show you what I mean with the tubes. So other than maybe a little bit of orange on there, which probably you're seeing the orange more after it's sort of digested, but is that tube not a perfect imitation? Just a green pumpkin brown tube. That's the size of those crayfish that the bass are eating. Pretty good little replica. Matching the hatch.
Get out of there, honey.
I missed that little stump sticking in the water, bud.
Yeah, well, didn't miss a whole lot here. We'll take them on the tube. You know, one big misconception with the tube, like it started on the Great Lakes and it was all heavy heads and big baits, but around here we found that like a smaller profile and just a light little, you know, an 1/8 of an ounce or a 3/32 is all you need. And usually I like to, you know, try to get away with as light as I can. I mean, if it's windy or something and you have to go to a quarter, then that's fine, but the lighter the better for me, I've found.
And you're gonna get snagged a lot less with it too, you know?
Yeah, and lose a lot less too
Yeah.
with a light head. You know, if you have a 3/8 ounce weight in there bobbling around, it's not going to help your chances of landing that fish. When you have a big heavy weight, that's a lot of lead in there, and there's just a lot of opportunity for it to wobble around and tear a bigger hole in that fish's mouth. I'm sure Jeff can tell you when he's down south and they're using those 3/4 to 1 ounce football jigs, I'm sure you lose a couple critters occasionally.
Yeah, you don't want them jumping around with that big lead in there, you know. A lot easier for them to spit it and shake it out of their mouth when they start jumping. And if you fish smallmouths enough, you know how much they like to fight and jump and get off. So fish on, bud.
Not a very big one. Oh, gone.
If they're not 3-pounders, you just shake them off, right?
They just know not to come in the boat.
See, my rod's loaded up pretty good. And
More bass ahead on Fishing with Gussy. Tech Tips is brought to you by Northland Fishing Tackle, made by fishermen for fishermen.
If you're fishing with a tube, you're going to go through more than one a day. You know, it's a bottom bait and you lose a lot. It's really simple to rig up. These are just 3-inch little impulse tubes. Take a head, little 1/8 ounce. Make sure the hook. Oh, here I'll show you. Okay, so that one's got a nice long shank. You want the shank of the hook to be just at the bottom of the tube there, right there. So that one fits perfect. All you do is take the jig, put it inside, you just poke the little eye through, and you're ready to rock. Simple as it gets and catches lots of bass.
Tech Tips is brought to you by Northland Fishing Tackle, made by fishermen for fishermen.
little smallmouth. There's the other thing that's happening out here right now is those guys are hatching. And we've had some pretty good shows over the last couple of years, taking advantage of the mayfly hatches when they're, you know, when those are really going. It's like the best topwater fishing you'll ever have in your life. But I don't know that it's a real big hatch going on right now. It's probably just kind of winding down, and that guy just happened to land in the boat. But when they're really going good, you'll see bass all over the place eating them off the surface, and I'm sure we could catch them pretty good on a topwater right now as well. So we got another little tree coming up here, so we'll see if Jamie can get one on his tube off this tree.
No. Another 14-incher. They sure are strong when they start eating those crayfish, though. I don't know what it is, but fish that eat minnows and fish that eat crayfish are, the difference in strength is really noticeable.
You can see my rod's loaded up pretty good, and you want to use a softer fishing rod for these crankbaits so you don't tear those little treble hooks out of their mouth. And we've talked about that before, but kind of a big misconception people have is that, you know, all those treble hooks, you're never going to lose a fish on them, but you're going to land way more fish on a single hook little jig than you will with a treble hook bait generally. So anyway, that one was right. I mean, I casted right on the shore, and I got about 2 reels into it and hooked him. So he was shallow. There's another one, same place. Little guy. Yeah, we're into found some fish anyways. And kind of the deal in this part of the lake is you gotta catch a bunch of these little ones, which I'm not gonna complain about if you wanna have some fun, and you'll just get some bigger fish kind of mixed in there with them. That one's
Hit it hard. I don't know if it's any better. No, just a little runner. He had that front hook in his mouth, and then he kind of... Not a big one, but hopefully there's just a bunch of them here and we're gonna get bigger. Be your old critter, Shelly. That one was up pretty tight to the bank too, huh?
Hiding in the cracks of the rock. He's got the mouth thing too.
Yeah, quite a few of them. I think that at first I thought they're getting caught, but all these fish haven't been caught already. You know, they're healthy and they're. I think that they're just eating so many crayfish. Those crayfish, the odd one must nip them around the lips maybe, and that's what I think. Or they're hitting rocks with their mouth maybe when they're trying to pin those crayfish or trap them, you know? I don't know. That's my theory. All right, I'm gonna get this snag off. Temperatures are warming up and I'm gonna take my jacket off. We're gonna take a break and we'll be back with some more smallmouth action on Lake of the Woods right after this.
Sunset Country waters contain large fish and plenty of them, and you may have wondered if this area holds any record-sized fish. And yes, it does, but more on that in just a little bit. Ontario keeps track of its record fish, and there are some big ones. Take, for example, the 63-pound lake trout from Lake Superior, the 9.84-pound smallmouth caught on Birchbark Lake, the 22.25-pound walleye from Niagara River, and the 10.43-pound largemouth caught on Preston Lake. Lake of the Woods holds the Ontario record for the largest saugai. That's right, saugai. It's a walleye sauger cross, and it's a whopping 4.5 pounds. Harry Bell of Kenora holds the record for the largest Ontario pike at 42.12 pounds pulled from Delaney Lake. This season perhaps is the season of records. The Master Angler program at the Northern Ontario Sport Fishing Centre is asking anglers of all types to send in their big fish. The program has been running for a couple of years now and is expanded to include the My First Fish category for anyone under the age of 12 who's just started out. The junior category is also quite popular for those avid young anglers. Visit sportfishingcenter.com to learn more. Then hop in your boat and hit the lake with a camera in hand to keep creating even more fish tales.
The area we're fishing now is we're kind of in a neck down place. So there's a bit of current kind of coming through here. And you know, generally, here Jamie's got one. If you get around some places that have some current, you're gonna, you know, catch some fish as well. But just for getting kids out fishing or guiding or having fun, people haven't caught a lot of bass before. I mean, you can start fishing right in Kenora, where we've done some shows in the past, and we're 20 miles down the lake maybe right now, but that whole run from Kenora heading south, there's bass, you know, all over the place. So
About the only place where you don't really catch them as much are those, you know, way out exposed offshore little islands. You know, it seems like if you're around the bigger islands or mainland, those seem to be better places.
Red lobster.
There we go. Jamie just caught a couple of smaller ones on his crankbait, and I just sort of dropped my tube over the side of the boat, and we're into like 7 or 8 feet of water. That guy got it good. There we go, he's fine. That's more like it, Brucey.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the kind that you're looking for in these tournaments out here. Nice 3-pounder. Oh, he was hooked good. There we go. These fish too that are, you know, in this water are chunky. Most of them are pretty fat and nice fish. You got a good one, bud?
I think we found them. That's no little one. Oh, maybe it is.
Maybe put how deep is it here?
10 feet.
Yeah, maybe try putting those talons down. Yeah, another beauty. Ooh.
Yeah, in these current zones, I mean, you can pound shoreline for a mile and not catch them, and you'll find one little corner that has a little current hole. And
Pike. Kind of a nice one though.
yeah,
And
not the usual.
said it before, but that's sort of the beauty of Lake of the Woods is you got a little bit of everything, and we've caught some nice walleyes today, lots of bass, not a lot of big bass, but a couple nice pike. That's a pretty good one right there. But you can always, if you cast these crankbaits around, cover enough water, you're gonna catch something. And you know, there's muskies. I need pliers. And you just never know what you're gonna find out here. So, been a pretty good day. We've caught lots of fish and had some fun. Just a typical summer day on Lake of the Woods.
Fishing with Gussy proudly uses and is sponsored by Jackal Lures.